What's the deal? Welcome to In Your League. I'm your host, Cheddar Chaz. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you haven't already. Today we're going to talk about Dejounte Murray and his future with the Pelicans, or lack thereof. Dejounte Murray, he said a lot of things in the press over the past couple of months. Said some very, very disrespectful things about New Orleans in the offseason. Some things that I've been told were untrue about the training staff and just his, tenure in New Orleans being more difficult than initially anticipated. Now, recently he's walked back some of those comments. He said some really cool things in the public. He's played about 6 games now so far. The results have been varied. Shout out to my dog in the building. What up, Louisiana Gal? What up, Ethan? Shout out to all y'all in the building, man. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. So, look. I'm a person that advocated for the Pelicans to trade for Dejounte Murray a few seasons ago. Actually, when he was with the San Antonio Spurs, he was initially traded to Atlanta. I wanted the Pelicans to go get him. I thought he was an ideal point guard for that iteration of the team. I no longer feel that way. I don't think Dejounte Murray necessarily fits what the Pelicans do right now for a couple of different reasons. One, his explosiveness with Ben in the corner doesn't necessarily seem like it's there. I know what people say that he just came off an Achilles injury. I'm like, no. Dating back to last season, his first step just doesn't appear to be there. Ball distribution has been a little hit or miss. He's a little turnover prone, not picking his spots as well. But maybe he needs to find a rhythm, and maybe last season he never really got into that rhythm. But we're going to get into it. First, let's take a look at the numbers again. Please be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Take a look at the numbers. So right now on the season, he's played 6 games. He's 29 years old. Contract is roughly I want to say $30+ million. He's under contract next year, and the following year is a player option. So he's averaging 16 points this season on 11 shots, shooting 47% from the field, 26% from 3. That leaves a lot to be desired. He's getting to the free throw line pretty effectively. Nearly 5 attempts a game, nearly at 89%. Not too bad. 5 assists, 5 rebounds, almost 2 steals, almost 4 turnovers, which is kind of crazy, especially for a veteran point guard. What up, Q? Shout out to Q in the building. What up, Denzel? What up, Don? Shout out to all y'all in the building, man. So we're going to get into some of his comments. And I don't know, man. This is not a attack Dejounte Murray show, but, I got to keep it real.
Allie here, Richard here. If you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to go hit that subscribe button to stay tapped in with Road Trippin' all season long. You don't want to miss what we have in store. So subscribe, hit that notification bell, tell a friend to tell a friend. Road Trippin' is here. We're taking over.
Stop blaming us for what Perk says.
Dejounte Murray is back. He made his season debut against the Warriors Tuesday night and last night. There were rumors earlier this season that he requested a trade from the Pelicans, and Dejounte Murray himself has now come out and said, "Ooh, is this real? F a source. Me or my agent, Rich Paul, did not request a trade." He also said that he is locked in and looking to make a play-in.
Dejounte Murray never requested a trade. Let's see. He's starting off. Well, all right. I'm gonna let it build. I don't want to go there just yet. But that's untrue.
Run with the Pels. So sounding like tanking is not in the plans for New Orleans. They're currently 14th in the West and have about 10 games between them and the Clippers for that play-in spot. Do you think a play-in push is realistic?
No.
Nope.
Thank you, Shannon.
Hell no.
Nope. But this is why people fuck with Dejounte Murray.
What are they at right now currently?
14th in the West, 10 games separating them between that final 10.
With only 25 games.
Would you say 10 games between them and 10?
Yeah.
First of all, Dejounte, I'm not laughing at Dejounte. That's the mentality, and athletes like, hey, I'm going to go push.
I was about to say, we can't complain about tanking and then be mad when they're...
Wait.
But see, here's the thing, and this is the issue with national people not necessarily being privy to the Pelicans' struggles in their situation. The Pelicans don't own their pick, so they couldn't tank if they wanted to. Whoa, what up, Michael Morgan? Appreciate your super chat, brother. Shout out to your homie. The Pelicans couldn't tank if they wanted to. Also, Dejounte Murray had little to no trade market this offseason or at the trade deadline. It's in his best interest to return and play because he ultimately wants to be somewhere else, and we're going to get into that later. So he has to play to boost his trade value, and he not only has to play, he has to play well. What up, B. Thomas? And even if he does play well, it's still a pretty slim chance that he's moved this offseason. He'll probably end up starting the season on the Pelicans. I just hope that it's not a situation where he just becomes just unhappy to the point where it's just an unsalvageable relationship. I don't think him playing for the Pelicans in the future is salvageable at all. But I just mean for us, like him being away from the team, him causing the locker room issue, things of that nature. I don't think, he's necessarily a bad guy at all, but I do know he was away from the team for quite some time this season, and that says a lot about the camaraderie between him and the rest of the organization at this current state.
Wait, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to give respect to Dejounte and say, like, hey, this man ain't played basketball in over a year. He wants to get on there. He wants to win some games. I completely support that. Now, that's what you're supposed to say. Realistically,
y'all don't think Richard Jefferson looked like Prometheus?
Intelligent basketball mind. No, it'd be very difficult. But 10-game gap between you and 10 with 25 games ago. Yeah, just go ahead and get that number 1 pick. Just go ahead. Just.
You see what I'm saying? He doesn't know that the Pelicans don't have their pick. There's no disrespect to Richard Jefferson because people just generally don't watch the Pelicans. But how can you not know that the Pelicans don't have a shot at getting the number 1 pick? Come on, RJ.
You've already endured this.
But listen, you respect Dejounte, right? Like, he's just a hooper. He wants to hoop and compete. I think they got a good young core, right? Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, obviously Trey Murphy. Like, they got a good young core with Dejounte. Like, they just got to add some more pieces, add some more vets. They're good to go.
Perk.
I'm trying to make it through this. I'm trying to make it through this video. It's hard enough watching local media that don't know what the fuck they're talking about as it pertains to the Pelicans. But it's extremely difficult when I watch national media who just not really privy to what the Pelicans got going on. Like, he's talking about a young core. Dejounte Murray is what, 30 or knocking on 30? It's not necessarily a part of a quote-unquote young core. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Anything?
Nah, not too much. I love Troy Weaver. I got a special place in my heart for any organization that
they don't have a pick. I forgot. Sorry.
For any look at that. Prometheus just got called out for not knowing that they don't have a pick. Get it together, bro.
Organization he's like, overseeing, because a lot of people don't give Troy Weaver a lot of credit, which they should, but he actually drafted that whole core down there in Detroit. Now, his coaching hire with Monty Williams and the bag that they gave him at the time, that's another conversation.
Again, Troy Weaver was not responsible for that decision. Troy Weaver reportedly wanted to hire Kevin Ollie. Ownership wanted to hire Monty Williams. Monty Williams refused, and they still gave Monty Williams a ton of money. I'd have took the money too.
But when you talk about Jalen Duren, Beef Stew, Kay Cunningham, Asur Thompson, that was Troy Weaver doing. So I never questioned his eye for talent. Here, he traded for me. He convinced Sam Presti to trade for me to get to Oklahoma City, and we know how that went. They went to the finals for the first time.
I forgot New Orleans doesn't have their pick. So, but in that case, you should win all of the games possible. All kidding aside, if you don't have your pick, let's flip it. Win all of the games, because you look a lot better if that pick that you gave up is 12 or 10 versus you giving up the number 1 pick. You don't want that on you. So either way, win.
Yeah.
All right. What we got, Allie?
Richard, someone in the chat before we take a break. Is Richard on the C team at ESPN to do?
All right. That's enough of that. Now let's get to Dejounte's words, all right? Because Dejounte is a guy. He says a lot of things, and if you guys are familiar with the network I used to be on, I did a bit of a expose. Whoa, what up with your 504? Appreciate you, big dog. Shout out to you, man. Hope you're safe out there. So I did a bit of an expose on some of the the contradictions with Dejounte Murray and his comments in the public, specifically on the pivot. And we're gonna get into one of those contradictions. And I ain't gonna lie, I have a real problem with the way Ryan Clark handled this situation. Ryan Clark was in the building for the last game, and I don't mean no disrespect to nobody in the chat. Ryan Clark is from the West Bank, right? He's not from the city, right? So I think Ryan Clark let Dejounte Murray get away with saying something extremely disrespectful and insensitive, and he should have checked him there. He didn't have to check him hard and be disrespectful, but he should have said something about it. He absolutely should have said something about it. And matter of fact, we're going to start with those comments. We're going to start with Dejounte Murray's comments in front of Ryan Clark on the pivot.
First, I'm shocked about the trade. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, I'm going to New Orleans. I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, and I was like, man, I'll never go there. Straight up, like, this is a true story. And
man, look, let me run that back in case y'all missed it.
first, I'm shocked about the trade. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, I'm going to New Orleans. I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, and I was like, man, I'll never go there. Straight up, like, this is a true story. And
man, look, bruh. Here's the crazy part. The craziest part about the whole thing is, after he said that, they immediately cut to Ryan Clark, and Ryan Clark like, man, no indeed, Lord. That's disrespectful as the fuck. You talking about a major catastrophe that happened that changed a lot of people's lives. Like, some people never came back to the city. Yeah, it's been 20 years, but you wouldn't, like, if someone said, for example, Devin Posey, it's been 20 years, right? But if someone said, well, after I saw 9/11, I said I would never move to New York, you would be like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, you can think whatever you want, but why would you say some shit like that when people lost their lives? Yeah, and the thing that really got me was Dejounte Murray was like 7 to 8 years old when Katrina happened. You know what I'm saying? He was a small child, so he was sitting watching fucking Fox News and George Bush when Katrina happened. He was like, I ain't going there. Come on, man. Like, let's stop it. Let's stop it here. And Ryan Clark, you sold out on that one, but you ain't really sell out because you're not from here anyway. So whatever. You know what I'm saying? I guess, but man, fuck that. That wasn't cool at all. But all right, now let's get to these comments that pretty much contradict what he said in a sense. He said he wants to represent New Orleans, and he's all the way bought in.
I heard comments you made a few months back and wondered if you were happy. Some comments about the Pelicans organization. And so where are you now as far as the organization, your happiness here in New Orleans? Can you clarify that for people?
I mean, as far as comments, I mean, I never, made no comments. When I speak on a professional way. And obviously last year was a lot of ups and downs for everybody, throughout the whole organization. As far as New Orleans, I'm here. I love New Orleans. I love the people. This is the reason I'm coming back. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of them guys that could be like, oh, man, I'm paid and, I could get an extra 6-7 months. Our team's, 14th in the West. There's a lot of excuses.
Man, you back because you can't get traded. That's why you back. You back because you want to get traded and nobody trying to trade for you because you suffered 2 devastating injuries last season, and when you was on the court, your performance wasn't up to par. That's why you're back. That's why you back. That's why you back. I'm not in my feelings or none of that shit. I'm just keeping it a cool motherfucking buck. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people were saying, well, his comments came on the heels of, David Griffin's tenure. David Griffin was a terrible president. It was like, yeah, no argument there. No argument there whatsoever. But keep in mind, Joe Dumars had already been hired when those comments were made. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like Joe Dumars had already been hired when those comments were. Yeah, shout out to my dog. Yeah, that shit did affect everybody. It's just, there might be some bias there as it pertains to Ryan Clark. It might be a little bit of bias there. You know what I'm saying? That's why I make that point. But it's like, you saying that, like, Joe Dumars was already hired. Troy Weaver, if I'm not mistaken, was already hired. I presume y'all already had some sort of conversation. Not only that, at the top of the season, I'm a person who didn't want Dejounte to rush back. I don't think Dejounte was ready to come back at the top of the season personally. But there's no doubt in my mind Dejounte could have came back in like January. You know what I'm saying? They probably worked up until the trade deadline to see if he can be traded. Once he couldn't get traded, they're like, look, man, you're going to have to come back and play. And it wasn't like he was around the team. He wasn't even in the city, really. He wasn't like hanging out in New Orleans, hanging out with the guys, mentoring motherfuckers. He wasn't doing none of that. It wasn't what was that what you most hated? It wasn't a Jason Tatum situation. You know what I'm saying? It was a toxic situation. He didn't want to be around the team. Some people, felt like he had gone rogue and he had not quote unquote abandoned the team, but he could have been here and he was choosing not to. And the communication wasn't great. Shout out to Louisiana Gal. He said Dejounte was cleared to play around the second week of January. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Let's stop this shit. You know what I'm saying? Again, this is not a personal attack against Dejounte Murray. I don't know Dejounte Murray. He don't know me. I don't want to know him. I'm sure he don't want to know me. So that being the case, I'm being totally objective, just keeping it a cool dollar as a person who advocated the trade for Dejounte Murray. This is a bunch of bullshit. I don't think anything's changed. I think you ultimately still need to work as hard as possible to trade this man. And this is insane. This is insane. I'm not believing the hype. And I don't think he's played especially well since he's been back either. To me, he still looks like the guy from last season, in my opinion. I know it's only been 6 games, but he don't look like rusty. He just looked exactly how he looked last season to me. Like, it is what it is.
You know what I'm saying? For a chump to be like, I ain't playing, and I'm the opposite of that. And not only that, I see the fans, in this city is passionate. They're loving, they're caring. They'll get behind you if you show that you're the same. So, me, my mindset was to take care of my mind and my body, but also not only I want to go represent, Dejounte Murray and my Murray family, but I want to represent for New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? I want to give the fans something to be able to come to the games and have fun. When they go home, they can say, that's my team and that's New Orleans.
Now, for comparison,
First, I'm shocked about the trade. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, I'm going to New Orleans. I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, and I was like, man, I'll never go there. Straight up, like, this is a true story.
Well, what's good with your brother Clarence? It's just like, I think that the thing that's really bothering me is when they cut to Ryan Clark, and Ryan Clark was just like, Like, why you co-signing that? You're supposed to be like, oh, hold on, brother. Well, I don't mean to stop your wisdom, but can you expound upon that so people don't get the wrong idea? What do you mean exactly when you say that? Like, that's all you have to say. You ain't have to go off or do nothing like that. That was just a totally disrespectful, insensitive thing to say. But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Mont Dog said Tiny Dog would never shit on the city, the organization, yes, but not the city. He didn't shit on the city. He mentioned like the fan attendance and stuff like that, which I thought was a bit of a nothing burger, to be honest. But they wanted to do a show about it, or Justin wanted to do a show about it. I just did the show. I thought it was a bit of a nothing burger personally. But, and because the building do be kind of bald head because the team sucks. But that being the case, I'm just like, look, man, it's in everyone's best interest to dissolve this relationship. And the best way to go about dissolving this relationship is that Dejounte Murray plays the rest of the games, plays consistently, plays well, builds upon some of the positives that he's shown thus far, tones down the turnovers. Then you go into the offseason with the same goal in mind. Everyone has to be in lockstep. Like, we have to trade this guy. Probably should, well, not even probably. We need to trade Herb Jones as well. Herb Jones had 4 points and 4 fouls yesterday as a starter. It got to stop. You need to trade Herb as well, right? Move on from these guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to move on, and you definitely need to fire James Borrego. No doubt about it. You got to fire the head coach. He's terrible. He's awful. He's not good. When I look at the ascension, let's say Cade Cunningham. We've talked about this before during the live watch along. So you look at the ascension of Cade Cunningham, and make sure y'all hitting that like button. Y'all hit the like button, fam. We talk about the ascension of Cade Cunningham. That coincided with the hiring of JB Bickerstaff, right? You talk about what you're seeing from LaMelo. Now, LaMelo was already an all-star, LaMelo Cole. But that also, coincided with him being healthy and Charles Lee really, hitting his stride. Now you're seeing guys going to the next level. You're seeing guys performing. I know the Pistons have lost a few games in a row, but yet and still, this on the season they've been excellent. I just think the writing is on the wall. There's no real cohesiveness with the starting unit. Can't rebound. The offensive sets are sloppy. The hierarchy isn't clear. It's just, it looked like everybody just met, and it's not because this team hasn't had time on task. It just, that's how it always looks. Before Dejounte Murray came back, that's how it looked. Now that he's here, it still looks that way. The rotations are crazy. Like Carlo goes from having a really awesome game, then he just doesn't play anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Eve Messi thankfully had a really good game yesterday, but he went from starting a couple of games ago to damn near he didn't get his first minutes until the second quarter last game against the Washington Wizards. Thankfully, the Washington Wizards pulled the plug and they sat Trae Young, because Richard Jefferson may not know this, but the Washington Wizards actually own their first round pick. So they actually have a chance to get the number 1 pick. So they sat Trae Young. Shout out to Trey Johnson. He balled out. You know, it's interesting, man. It's just interesting how some people are just so easily swayed by public comments. You gotta have some type of self-love and self-esteem, even as a fan base. You know what I'm saying? I heard what you said about New Orleans, brother. I heard what you said. That was an out of bounds attack. I heard what you said. It wasn't necessary. It is what it is, though. Denzel, I'm gonna get to some of y'all comments, man, before we get out of here. My dog said Miami knows how it feels to suffer hurricanes better than anyone else. Yeah, shout out to Miami, man. Debo the God said it's gonna be hard to trade Dejounte Poole and Herb. Trade Dejounte and Poole and Herb will be easier to trade. I think it'll be easier to trade Poole because he's expiring. And Herb, I think you could trade Herb. Hopefully, people not, looking to give horsing him out too much with Herb Jones, because he's had a pretty down season. Louisiana Gal say this is not a starting center BS. This not starting the center BS just so the team can start Dejounte and Herb is nuts. Yeah, I don't like it. I think it's incredibly petty and relationship driven and politically driven personally. You know what I'm saying? Mondal said we have replacements for Murray, Poole, and Herb on the team. Fears, PV, and McGowan. I especially like what I've seen from my dog Fears as of late. Matter of fact, let's get to we're gonna look at Herb Jones's numbers, and then we're gonna look at Fears' numbers, and we're gonna get out of here, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to my dog Looney. What's happening with you? If you're in the chat, you're just joining, make sure you hit the like button, man. Appreciate everybody rocking with me on this Monday afternoon. Let's see. So we got Herb Jones right now, brother Herb. 43 games to the season. He's shooting 38% from the field, averaging 8 points on 8 shots. Oh my God. Shooting 28% from beyond the arc on 4.5 attempts a game. 82% from the free throw line on 1 free throw a game. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, 0.5 blocks, which is pretty much on, his career average. Herb is probably having the worst season of his career this year. He's probably having the worst season of his career this year. It is tough. It is tough. Let's look at our brother Jeremiah Fears, see how he's doing. Yeah, but his finishing at the rim has been really excellent as of late. Missed a couple easy ones last night. But shooting from beyond the arc and stuff as lately has been good. Louisiana Gal said Fears has grown so much post All-Star break. He needs 28 plus minutes a game. But Rego hasn't given him the appropriate amount of time since Dejounte came back. Yeah, and the rotation's just been so off. Like, the rotation's really been off, in my opinion, as well. It's like when you do play him, it's not in the best rotation. Like, I don't, not enough shooters. I mean, ain't enough shooters on the roster, but not enough shooting on the floor to help him when he does break down the defense. Debo said, I know this is not Pelicans news alone, but Alontae Taylor got $60 million to be a slot corner. Oh my God. I hope he ain't get $60 million from the Saints. I think the Saints about to move on from Elvin Kamara. They just signed a dude from the Jaguars, bruh. Signed a guard. I hope Alontae ain't get that $60 million from the Saints. I ain't gonna lie, boy. I ain't look at it. Oh, Titans. Whoo, thank God. Thank God. Whoo. Godspeed, Alontae. All right, so Jeremiah Fears, 66 games this season. Started 44. Averaging 13 points on 11 shot attempts. That's 42% from the field. Shooting 32% from beyond the arc on 3 attempts. That's really good for a guy who was considered a person who, couldn't shoot coming out of college. That's really good for him. Averaging close to 3 free throws a game, but it's 2, but averaging close to 3 free throws a game. Shooting at about 80%. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. 2 turnovers. Got to tone down the turnovers, but he's a rookie point guard, so he's a rookie playing with some considered, it's between center and point guard, with some considered to be one of the most difficult positions in the NBA. Also, he's, an undersized rookie point guard playing with terrible coaches and no shooting. He struggled to finish at the rim earlier this season. Decision making, like when to move the ball, had earlier this season, you know, it was a bit choppy, bit difficult, but he seems to be rounding the turn in my opinion. Q said whole season comes down to coaching to me. For example, there's no reason coaches are encouraging Herb to be the ball handler and the initiator. Man, I agree, Q. Like, I don't want to turn it into a Herb show. I'll probably do a Spaces later this evening. If y'all follow me on Twitter at CheddarChaz, CheddaChaz, we'll probably do a Spaces later this evening to kind of break down things we saw from the Wizards game and things we saw from the last few games if you missed the last Spaces. If not, if you're unable to join, I'll upload it on here the following day. Whoa, what up with you, Jess? Happy Monday to you. Shout out to Jess in the building. But yeah, man, I respect Dejounte Murray's game, former All-Star guy who, I'm a fan of his game. I like what he has to do, but at the same time, I like what he does out there. But at the same time, I don't think the fit is there. I think behind the scenes, the relationship is just too choppy. And in my opinion, it's not a situation to where I'm like, well, maybe Joe can change things around and convince him to stay. I don't really want him to stay. I don't think again, I think he's a box score stuffer, like, rebounding, passing, scoring at times. But I think for the price range, you probably could find someone a little bit more suitable and a little bit more reasonable as it pertains to working with the training staff and comments made in public. Because if everything he said was 100% true, I don't think anyone would have any problem. But the fact that some of the things he said were, reportedly untrue, that makes everyone kind of look at him a little funny, especially on top of what we've seen with his comments about New Orleans. So that's been today's show. Shout out to everybody in the building. Again, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I just wanted to hit y'all with a quick one. We'll be back. I'm probably going to do the Spaces tonight. I'll upload that, so make sure y'all tap in at CheddarChaz, CheddaChaz. Stream the new song Outlaw. The link is at the top of the chat, man. Make sure y'all stream that. Check that out. Let me know what y'all think about that. I'm gonna be dropping a video to that soon. Much love to everybody, man. I hope y'all have a safe week. My dog said, can we get Fred VanVleet? I think it's possible. Especially the way the Rockets looking. I think Fred VanVleet is on a team option though, so they would have to pick up. I think the Rockets will have to pick up that option to trade him, if I'm not mistaken. So it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. I gotta look at then again, it might be kind of difficult because the Rockets also, I think Tyree Eason is leaving also, or he's gonna be a restricted free agent. So they may not have the tradable salary to move. They may not have a it's a player option. Shout out Louisiana Gale. So Fred VanVleet has a player option, which he's almost certainly picking up. So they may be able to trade him, but I don't know if they have the salary they can package with him to move him. At one time I thought they would be packaging Reed Sheppard because Reed was playing bad, but now he's starting to play well. They may not be looking to package Reed Sheppard to move him. Honestly, I think it's more likely that the Rockets trade Kevin Durant or move on from Kevin Durant and just go back to their original timeline than them traded any of their young guys, because this just don't seem like it's gonna work out, to be honest. And they tried to expedite the timeline, and it just nah. You need to pour more resources into Ben Thompson, into Sengun if possible, into Reed Sheppard, into your young guys. There's also the Jabari factor. If Kevin Durant and Jabari's relationship is as bad as the burner tweets suggest or the burner DMs suggest, then maybe you could do something like Dejounte and a guy for Fred and Fred. Maybe you do something like Dejounte and Herb for Jabari and Fred, or something along those lines. Skull said, you think the Rockets trading Jalen Green was the right move? No. I think they ultimately had to trade Jalen. They had to choose between Jalen and Sengun, right? I think they ultimately had to make that decision. I just don't think you trade for Kevin Durant if you're not a bona fide contender. I'm not saying you got lucky. Well, not lucky. You had a hot streak. Like, man, we get one more person, we could really do something. No, it needs to be a warrior situation to where it's like, man, we lost game 7. Like, you know what I'm saying? A team like a team like the Celtics should have traded for Kevin Durant. You know what I'm saying? A team like that. Not a team with a bunch of young guys who haven't really, figured it out totally yet. I just think that was a bad move. I didn't think they got a great return for Jalen Green. Also, it was just because it wasn't just Jalen Green. You also traded Dylan Brooks. That was a very underrated. Like, people talk about the Saddiq Bey as being an underrated part of the Pelicans trade with the Wizards, but Dylan Brooks was a very underrated part of that Suns trade, because Dylan Brooks represents team identity, and the Rockets lost a lot of that toughness and grit and team identity when they traded Dylan Brooks along with Jalen Green. And Kevin Durant supposedly convinced them to sign DFS, and that's been a disaster. One more thing I want to say. I've seen this mentioned a lot on Twitter. Saddiq Bey was not a throw-in in the fucking Jordan Poole trade. Saddiq Bey was not a throw-in in the trade. Troy Weaver drafted Saddiq Bey in the lottery. He targeted and drafted Saddiq Bey in the lottery. Washington, that Troy Weaver worked for at the time, signed Saddiq Bey via free agency. He targeted him because that is a player he wanted. Saddiq Bey wasn't just salary matching purposes. He wasn't like a second round pick. That's someone Troy Weaver actively targeted. That's someone Troy Weaver actively went after. If anything, Jordan Poole was more of a dice roll. Like, well, if it works out, cool. If it don't work out, well, he only got 1 year left. Like, that was more of a dice roll, like a distressed asset that if it work out great, high upside type thing, if it all works out. Short-term contract. Like, I come on, man. People, I don't know. Look, I don't think this front office has been great, but I think people kind of go out of their way not to give the front office any credit. No. Saddiq Bey was a target. I don't know if he was the de facto target, but he was certainly a target. Again, this is a person Troy Weaver drafted, scouted for years, worked with in Washington, traded and brought in. Why he didn't go get Corey Kispert? If Saddiq Bey was just a throw-in, and for salary matching purposes or what have you, why he didn't go get Corey Kispert? Why he didn't go get like just any other miscellaneous guy? Why he didn't go get Marvin Bagley? Like, you know what I'm saying? If it was just about throwing in the salary, I just think people are not very familiar with Troy Weaver's history and maybe not that familiar with Saddiq Bey's history and those connections there. But shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Shout out to Saddiq Bey having a great season. Just had another great game. And I'm going to catch y'all later. Be safe. Have a good week, man. Much love to y'all. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Stream the new single.